Jim Knowles. So his tenure at Oklahoma State, 2018 through 21. So 4 seasons there. I looked at the Oklahoma fans' total defense before he got there. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they're pretty well stuck in my head. They were around 75th in the nation when he got there. They actually regressed the first season he was there, about 10 to 20 spots in both scoring and total defense. Then they got back to about where they were the second season before they took off to a top 40 defense, and then better than that, and finally a top 3 scoring defense and a top 10 total defense his final season. So I think there's this automatic or just assumption that he's going to come in and fix the defense, and Ohio State's going to use all this talent to become a top 10 defense in the country. Tony, do you think there's any reservation that what was experienced at Oklahoma State is going to be similar, or just two completely different situations?
I think it's two different situations in terms of the talent on hand and the development that goes into producing players at Oklahoma State is a little bit different than at Ohio State. Take, for instance, Malcolm Rodriguez, they're starting one of their starting inside linebackers for the past few seasons, and was a third round NFL draft pick by the Lions or so, and led them in tackles or whatever. He came there as an option quarterback / safety, and it takes a while for that to become an all-American linebacker. Whereas at Ohio State, they're more ready-made in recruiting, and so I think I don't expect a step back. I do think Ohio State's defense was better than people actually think it was last year in a lot of metrics, but there are just some breakdowns. And I think if you just stop the breakdowns, that makes the defense so much better. And just the voids.
So, Pat, I forgot to tell you that it's your role to fill in the blanks of any sentences that are left by any other analyst if they well, we got Tony back. Very nice. Very nice.
Was I gone? I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. But I know, I just think I think there's enough talent and enough scheme and enough chaos that will be created by Jim Knowles' play calling that will help.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you look at what he's already done from talking to the players, talking to other coaches. I think you're seeing that the progress is getting made quicker because, as you said, Tony, some of these guys are more ready-made to play in this defense. And then you're able to add a Tanner McAllister who can step in, and we'll see what his role is. We all think he's going to step in as a starter, but at the very least, he's helping to teach these guys as a teammate as opposed to a coach. You've also brought in some other coaches who have experience coaching at this level and being successful. And I think, too, that this defense, while I think there'll be a lot of similarities to what they did at Oklahoma State, I don't know if it will look exactly the same. I mean, Jim Knowles has already talked about the fact that they may have to use 3 linebackers more just because you're playing in the Big Ten as opposed to what you saw week in and week out in the Big 12. Now, that's not what it was 10, 15 years ago. You don't face Wisconsin every week, but there are more teams that'll line up in a more traditional power I formation, and you can't just have 2 linebackers on the field and a whole bunch of defensive backs and expect to stop that. So, I think you have to cater it a little bit to what you've got and then what you're going to face. And I think they've done a good job of starting to do that. But I do think that not only were these guys, ready talent-wise, but I think they were all pretty eager to learn and, get some new information given to them and kind of see where they went wrong, take that coaching, which I think is an important part, especially in a spring where you're not playing anyone else. Even though you have a spring game at the end of it, it's different. There's not that opponent at the end of each week that you're looking forward to, and you get the chance to kind of see it all take place. You're just going out there and playing against each other every week. So you need that kind of extra motivation, and they certainly have it. You mentioned the 2 losses, but just overall how the defense played. And I think you saw a little bit of that in the Rose Bowl. They kind of took it on themselves to go out there and get that game done defensively. I mean, they didn't change anything schematically or anything at halftime. The guys just kind of took it, like I said, took it on themselves to fight for that win and get enough stops to let the offense do what it did in that second half.
Normally, I tell people don't at the players on Twitter, but maybe all of the criticism that they heard last year also made them want to learn more this year, Pat, and really get back to the drawing board because they're just tired of all the criticism that they received on Twitter last year.
Well, and they weren't happy with it either. I mean, I know you say that somewhat in jest, but they definitely do see that. But they also see the results. I mean, we hear all the time, oh, this is better than you guys see it. Some of that may be true, but you know the results are what they are. There's no disputing that the defense wasn't as good the last 2 years. I mean, last year they just felt the blunt of it because of the 2 losses, but even the year before, they make the national championship game, but that wasn't a national championship caliber defense. They benefited some from a shortened season and Ryan Day's offense and Justin Fields and what Trey Sermon was able to do at the end of the year. But you don't give a ton of credit to the defense. And, sometimes it takes those type of games, the Oregon game, the Michigan game, even some of the performances to really force those changes. And you saw it, Ryan Day taking play calling away from Kerry Combs after the Oregon loss. And then, obviously finally what happened at the end of the season.
Yeah, I've been watching football for about 4 decades. I think I finally grasped that 52-45 on the scoreboard wasn't the best in the last 2 postseasons. So that needs to change to a certain extent.
It'd be Clemson.
Hey,
Yes. Well, if we take it back before, yes.
500 gets you in the Hall of Fame.
What's that?
500 gets you in the Hall of Fame in the major leagues. So
It does at that. It can.